Lately, I'm starting to feel like Sue Storm is just kind of cheeks, right? Let's talk about it. YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark. I'm here bright and early on a Monday afternoon at this point. Hope everybody had a great weekend. If not, I'm sorry to hear that. I hope your week gets a lot better. I know a lot of you are probably starting school, so good luck with that. Hope everything goes well. But like I said in the beginning of the video, Sue Storm, a lot of people have been talking about her lately, just going back and forth, and you know, it's been making me kind of think about it as well. When Sue Storm first came out, I really enjoyed Sue. She felt very aggressive, and it felt like, you know, her ult was pretty good for certain situations and stuff like that. But as time has went on, I've kind of changed in regards to how I feel about her, and I find myself picking her less and less. And when I compare her to a lot of the other supports in the game, not saying all of them, but a lot of other ones, it just kind of seems like, why would I pick Sue? And, you know, for the people that are out there, they're probably going to, you know, inevitably go, oh, well, you just don't know how to play her. I play her all the time and I get plenty of wins. Not going to lie to you. That's probably lower elo. I'm not going to lie to you. And the thing is that that's just kind of how this game is. There's certain characters that you can get away with certain stuff in lower elo. It's kind of like Spider-Man, for example. He's what I like to call a pub stomper. People that are new to the game, he is very, very overwhelming to them. Same thing with like Black Panther and different characters and stuff. There's a lot of people who, when you first start playing the game, you're kind of like, well, what am I supposed to do against this? But as time goes on, if you actually put the time and the energy in, you maybe start to play those characters or you know, whatever, just learn their counters, whatever the case is, you know, you'll start to realize like, oh, okay, it's not as much of a deal as I was making it out to be originally. And that's kind of like the case the other way around when you have someone like Sue Storm, where in you know, lower elos, she seems like she's not that bad, but as time goes on and you start going up against you know, very skilled strategists on the enemy team, and you have certain team comps and stuff, you kind of feel like, well, why exactly would I use Invis? And you know, I also just want to preface and say too, I am a Lord Invis, so there was a time when I had you know, put a lot of time and energy into Invis. It's just that as time has gone on, as you know, my mindset has kind of changed. Now the thing is that before I get into why I think that she's cheeks currently, I will go ahead, you know, just to be as unbiased as possible and try to say some of the good things about Invis. Now, one of the first things that I'll say is that her shield is actually really, really good for flyers. The problem with the shield though is that the way that you're more than likely going to use it for flyers is usually you will have to put it somewhere that's like out of sight, because the shield does break very easily, which I'll touch on here in a moment. But you know, if you have people that are coordinated on your team and you are like communicating and really working together with your team, and they understand how you play, you can put that shield off behind cover somewhere, and the flyer can just keep kind of like coming back to it, just keep peeking and peeking, which is what good flyers do. The bad flyers are the ones that are going to just sit out there with the Iron Man you know, beam or whatever and just sit wide out in the open and get deleted by, you know, Hela, Hawkeye, Punisher, any of the number of people that are made to counter flyers and stuff like that. Another thing too with her that's really good is her ability to work well against poke and stuff like that. So when you have the enemy team and they do have a poke composition, she can work really, really good with that as well. One of my favorite things to do with Invis, especially like on a lot of different spots on the map, is force push people off of cliffs and stuff like that. That is probably one of the most satisfying things to do as a support. There's a few different maps where people kind of have to go near these ledges. Well, they don't have to, but they're 99% of the time going to kind of walk right by like the ledges and think, oh, it's not a big deal. You can just pop your invisibility, boom, give them a little force push action, and they go flying off a cliff, right? And that is something that is really satisfying to do, because it's really not that complicated, especially if you just think about it at all and you go invisible. You can easily just, you know, press two buttons and boom, they're going flying, right? And you can actually get a decent amount of people if they're grouped up. Another good thing I like about her as well is that her healing has the ability to do damage as well. So it's not like a situation where, you know, you have to kind of like switch over and use something else to be able to damage people, kind of like Cloak and Dagger. Not saying that Cloak and Dagger in you know, Dagger form can't damage people, but it's kind of pointless in comparison to if you were to switch over to Cloak and blind them and then, you know, proceed to do your damage or whatever. Kind of like the same thing with Rocket, how you have to like choose to either do damage or heal, and the ability to allow her projectiles to go through the enemy and stuff like that. So they can heal teammates and they can damage damage people at the same exact time. And you kind of get that tick where it, you know, goes through them and then it comes back to you. So you're kind of getting like that little double dose of damage really quickly. Another good thing about her too is the fact that she is able to go invisible. So against Black Panther, which he's currently one of the most, if not the most banned character, I think pretty much every single game that I play, there are two bans that pretty much everybody goes for. That is Black Panther and Wolverine, and it's usually in that order, right? So when you are getting dove by a Black Panther, and this is something that I had learned on my own, but it was also confirmed by, in our Discord server, we have probably one of the best Black Panther players out there, Noke, and he's absolutely amazing. He terrorizes our custom lobbies to the point to where even now in customs, if he's playing, it's just banned. He was saying the other day that he hasn't even been able to play Panther in so long that he feels like his skills are starting to diminish just from lack of being able to use them realistically. And like I said, he himself has even said that one of the hardest things for him to go up against in regards to support players is an invis that you know knows to go invisible ahead of time, simply because you can't delete what you can't see. Now, with that being said, and there may be a few other points, and you guys feel free to leave them in the comments and let me know, because obviously there's only so many things that I'm going to be able to think of off the top of my head in regards to that. There's plenty of stuff that I'll leave out, and that's where it's up to you all to fill in the blanks and stuff in the comment section, which I always do appreciate. But you know, now getting into the things that I don't necessarily like about invis, and I just kind of made a couple of little bulletin points here just overall, and then I'll kind of go into them some more. So low impact utility, right? Her shields, they sound strong on paper, but in practice, you know, they're actually really small. They're very weak. It only has what, like 250 health, or maybe I think it's like 300 or something like that. They break really quickly under focus fire, and other supports provide more reliable impactful team sustain. Jesus, got a little tongue twister there, right? But yeah, so you think about like Cloak and Dagger, for example, right? Cloak and Dagger, she has a bubble that she gets back every like 9 or 10 seconds. It's on a ridiculously low cooldown, and this bubble is indestructible. Now, it's not going to block ult like Invis's shield will, but you do have the ability to put that bubble down wherever you want to. So you can do a lot of like little cool tricks where, like, let's say Emma pops her ult or something, right? And your team is walking forward. Instead of putting the bubble down right there on your team the second it gets popped, you can put it down preemptively where you know that they're going to be, like, if you know that they're about to move in a certain direction and they're already going to be weak at that point, you can put that bubble down. And the bubble, the thing I like about it is that the bubble is indestructible. Now, you can be damaged through the bubble, but for the most part, it's like this bubble has a pretty big area. Like, if your team is grouped up, you can cover a lot of people with this. And like I said, you can control where you want to put the bubble at. So even when it comes down to healing yourself, if you need to put the bubble down, or you know, you need to reposition or whatever the case is, you have this bubble, and it does really, really good healing. Whereas like with her shield for Invis, the shield gets broken really, really quickly. Like, anybody with half an IQ is gonna immediately break the shield, and it has a very small area. But I will say that I do like the fact that it's able to stop pretty much anything, right? So it's a Magneto ult or a Wanda ult or whatever, and you are able to place that shield down. You know, it's going to break obviously, but you at least have some type of barrier there to protect you from that, which is nice. So lack of burst healing / damage compared to healers, you know, like Loki and different supports in the game and stuff like that. She doesn't really like swing fights, in my opinion. She can extend a fight slightly, but it's rarely a situation where like she turns the tide of the fight on her own. That's just not really something that is a big deal. Another thing too, her stealth, even though she can go invisible, the stealth is very situational. Now the thing about that is like, the invisibility can help her reposition, like if she gets into like tricky, you know, situations and stuff like that. You know, but it is limited, and like I said, once again, it doesn't always change, like, you know, the fights and stuff like that, and it's not as good as like a hard CC damage reduction or anything like that. So it's kind of, once you get past a certain point and you start playing against certain players, they're going to immediately kind of know like, okay, well, this is pointless, because the thing is, you can still hear her footsteps. And I know there's a lot of you out there that do not have very good headsets, and I know this for a fact because I'm usually the one that's like, hey, I can clearly hear someone walking around, or I can hear this thing happening, like, you know, Spider-Man swinging his webs in the background, and most people are just kind of like, huh? You know, so, but once you start getting into, you know, higher skill lobbies or start playing with more higher skill people, they're going to immediately identify that that there are footsteps walking around them, and that from a person that they can't see that's not one of their teammates. And yeah, they're just gonna get you out of there. Like, I've had Bucky's literally just turn around and just delete me, Punishers, Hellas, pretty much anybody, right? Especially like with a Magic or something like that, because like I said, not only are they able to hear you, but a lot of them will get really, really good at predicting where you're gonna go based off of kind of like how you jumped when you went to go disappear, because you do have to jump to disappear. The only other option is to just kind of like not do anything for a period of what, like 6 or 7 seconds or something like that, which in a fight is an eternity, right? So 9 times out of 10 you're gonna do the double jump to go invisible, and most people are going to have somewhat of an idea of where you just went. And with Magic, she has kind of like this wide area of effect that she kind of like covers when she's swinging her giant sword around, right? So it's like one of those situations where a lot of times she's going to swing her sword, and that's just going to kind of be the end of it, right? So now the other thing that I want to touch on too is how she feels very weak, like in solo queue, which a lot of people, that's how they play. I feel like the majority of people, and I could be wrong, but this is just my intuition. See, I feel like the majority of people solo queue. That's where a lot of the issues with this game come in at, is because it is a team-based game. A lot of games are team-based games that are, especially, you know, like unless you're playing like a fighting game or with the exception of a few other things, most things that you play nowadays are kind of like team-oriented and made to feel better if you're playing with other people. And most people do not always have a solid group of people to play with, or even people like myself, where I have a whole entire Discord and tons of subscribers and stuff that would love to play with me regularly and stuff. I tend to want to be able to get my rank on my own, because it just kind of makes me feel like I wasn't boosted, or I didn't need anyone's help to be able to do it, in regards to having to have someone that I can coordinate everything with, right? And kind of like how I was talking about earlier with her shield. Now, if you're playing with a group of people and they know how to play around you and stuff, let's say that I'm playing with some people in my server and we are talking and communicating and stuff and really sweating to win a match. You know, I can say, hey, you know, somebody goes Storm and Iron Man and Human Torch, and I'm going to put this little shield over here around this corner, and you guys just keep swapping out and peeking that corner, and it's like, you know, there's nothing that can be done. And while the shield has other uses and stuff like that, when someone's one shot or something, it does kind of, you know, mentally, you know, it's like a psychological game where you're putting that shield out and people go, oh, they're one shot, and then you pop the shield and it's like, oh, he's not one shot anymore. You know what I mean? Think kind of like when Hulk is like one shot and then he pops his ult, and you just did all this work to get the man one shot. Now he's popped his ult and he has even more health than he had before, and he's even stronger and stuff like that. So, but like I was saying though, when you're playing in solo queue, people really don't pay attention like that, and it's almost like a lot of times people like get offended by the idea of being healed. I've lost count of how many times I went to put my little contact lens in front of somebody and they moved out of the way, like, what the hell is this? Get this thing out of my way, right? And you're like, brother, that, I don't know if it's just because they have never played support in their life, so they don't understand that thing is not just like a, I don't know, like a cool aesthetic or something. It's actually a shield that not only is a shield, but it actually heals you at a pretty, you know, decent amount. You know, so there's lots of different reasons why, like in solo queue, she just doesn't feel probably like a really good pick in comparison to a lot of other supports and stuff like that. But that's just one of the kind of things that I was thinking about, like in regards to how you have to be able to kind of make things work and really have like that team communication for her to be as effective. And once again, just want to reiterate, there's a lot of people that are going to sit back and they're going to say, well, I won with Sue all the time. That's cool, but you probably weren't going up against a team that was as good as you, that actually had other supports, because there are other choices that are just a lot better in numerous different situations, to where overall it kind of feels like you're selling sometimes when you're playing in Viz. I'm just going to be honest with you. And that's where I'm going to get to now. Her ult is very irritating because one, you know, not that Mag doesn't shut down a lot of other ults, but very easy for him. It's not like Luna where you can kind of move out of the way, or like Cloak and Dagger where if you know there's a Mag on the enemy team, what I'll do is I'll purposely ult into places that I know Mag can't get me, like little tight areas and stuff like that, or into a building or around a corner, whatever the case is, right? You can kind of think like the Magneto and make sure that when you ult, that you ult somewhere to where he can't get you, or you can at least ult in cloak form, so that way once you're done with the ult, you can just fade out and avoid getting hit with his ult. Who else is it? Luna. I've seen tons of Lunas that you know, they're breaking ankles while they're using their ult. They just sit there and zigzag around. They're looking at the Magneto. As soon as he's about to ult, they just zag to the other direction really quick, right? So, but with Invis, it's like, we all know you're most like, if we don't see the teammates, we know they're inside the ult, right? And his ult covers like a pretty decent like little area of that ult. And a lot of people use it incorrectly. A lot of people will put the ult, like let's say you're on a point, they'll just put the ult right there, and then boom, now you have Moon Knight and he just pops his ult or whatever. Same thing with Jeff. Jeff's ult perfectly covers the the area of Sue Storm's ult. So it's like, that's just like, there's so many things where it's just these easy quick counters. Not saying they can't be done with other people, but with her ult being stationary, it's very easy to counter. Now it does have certain benefits, right? Like if you were to put the ult halfway on the point, to where it's hard for them to be able to see you. Same thing with like Punisher. Punisher, if he's outside of the ult, he's not going to be able to see you. Then you could just jump out of it if he jumps in. Like there's a couple of different ways that you can make it work. But the point that I'm making is that the amount of work that you have to do, it's just kind of silly to me when you shouldn't have to really do all that when you could just use another support. Right. And something else that really triggers me that I just want to bring up too is that the only way that you can heal yourself, there's only two ways that you can heal yourself with Sue Storm. That's if you're smart enough to, like, let's say a lot of times, like when she first came out, I had made a video on like things people were doing wrong with her. What I used to do a lot of times is I would like, right as we're about to go around a corner, I would just play that corner and I would put the shield on one of my teammates before they walked around the corner. And I would make sure the shield was out of view, and then I would just keep peeking, just like how I said about the flyers. I would just keep peeking. The only other way to be able to do that is like, instead of having to preemptively put the shield out, is to double jump and go invisible. But the only way that you can stay invisible, which the healing is actually really slow when you're invisible. It feels like it takes an eternity, especially in a fight, to heal up even like halfway. But yeah, once you're invisible, you can't do anything. The only thing you can do is move around, but you can't actually like contribute to the fight. It's not like with Cloak and Dagger where you get this bubble every 10 seconds. And then even when the bubble is done, you can fade out and like literally float up into the air and take high ground, do whatever. You're completely invincible when you cloak out. And not only are you invincible, your teammates are as well. So you can stop, like if Iron Man's ulting on you, Magneto's ulting on you, any of those people that have those one-shot ults, you have the ability to cloak anyone that's within like proximity of you, like close enough range, right? So once again, it's just so many things where it feels like, what is the point? And then when you have the comp of Loki and whatever other support, you're kind of, screwing yourself over in regards to the fact that Loki is more than likely gonna most times copy the ult of the person on his team. Yeah, of course he can copy someone else's ult, but it's a lot easier to be able to just kind of stay back with the other support and then copy their ult, right? So at that point, you're getting two invis ults, when in reality, let's just be honest here. Would you rather not have a Cloak and Dagger or a Luna ult? Like, let's just be real here. Honestly, I really probably rather have a Rocket ult, to be honest with you, man, at this point. Like, I mean, yeah, the Rocket ult can be broken and that kind of like sucks, but at the same time though, like Invis, her ult lasts for like what, like 6 seconds? And you can get deleted in it. Like the healing that it outputs is not so much that if someone just focuses you for like half a second that you won't get just torn apart in shreds. So, there's just a lot of different things about her that I feel like, it's like, why would I pick her? You get what I'm saying here? But at the same time, though, I do think that she's very gimmicky and like fun to play for like newer players and people that aren't in just like the sweatiest lobbies like humanly possible. And like I said, there was a point in time when I had a lot of fun with her, and it's just kind of like I said before with Spidey, let's say a rank gets reset and I'm down like in silver or something like that. Yeah, I can pull out Spidey and overwhelm support players. They're just like, oh God, it's Spider-Man. Whole team's focusing on you. You're zipping around and they're just like, what do we do? This is so overwhelming. And then you get up to like plat and it's just like, they just swat you like you're a fly, and then they go right back to doing what they do. Like they're completely unbothered while doing it. It's just something that does not even remotely faze them. And that's kind of how I feel about Invis. I feel like Invis is fine up until a certain point, and then past that, it's kind of like, all right, it's probably time for me to start picking other supports and start learning other supports. And that's kind of where I'm at overall. It's not to say that, because there's a lot of different situations where some things are just better. Sometimes you need to be a little bit more aggressive as a support player. And then you start to kind of realize like there are other people that are just far better at that. Kind of like lately I've been learning Loki. And even with Rocket, like Rocket has I know a lot of people, they sit back and they think like, because there were so many like heal bot Rockets, but a lot of people don't realize that Rocket has like one of the highest damage outputs in the game. I've been playing him more, and you like absolutely shred tanks and just go right back to doing your thing. And the thing is like you're so small and you have such survivability because you're like a cracked out raccoon, right? Who's just like all over the place. He's just, I mean, you are a raccoon, but you get what I'm saying, right? It's like how squirrels, how you see them and they're just like running all over the trees and zigzagging from here, jumping from branch to branch, all that kind of stuff. And you're like, that's insane. How do they do that, right? And that's kind of like how it is with Rocket. And then the fact that he has such ridiculously high damage output, you can just drop down, shred a tank really quick and go back to doing what you're doing. Same thing with Loki when you have all of his clones out and stuff, just ridiculous damage output and healing and stuff like that. But they take a little bit more effort to actually be able to really get good with them versus just kind of sit back and just press a button and just keep heal botting. So those are just kind of my thoughts on it, but I am curious to know what you all think, because when I brought this up to some people in the server earlier, there's a lot of people that were very defensive over Sue Storm, and some people were saying, oh man, she's goated, man, she does this, and I can't stand her. I have one guy in the server, he's really, really good, Fade, and he always says that he can't stand Sue because of how good she is against poke and the fact that she can protect her flyers really well. Another guy in our server as well, Korn, he said the same exact thing. He's just like, man, you put that shield behind a wall and the flyers just become like invincible for however long it's there, right? So, but me personally, though, like I said, I personally feel like as someone who really actually plays support and probably has like 85% of my time on this game as a support player, that Sue is just, I don't know, man, she needs something, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I feel like she needs something though to really put her up there with the rest of the people. But really we just need more supports, period. There's only like so many to realistically choose, and if you don't, people kind of look at you like you're a throw pick. And I see that they're starting to kind of change some things, like you have more like off supports like Adam Warlock and stuff, and they made it to where if he gets crits, then it takes the cooldown down a little bit for his abilities to heal and stuff like that. So but I do feel like we need some more interesting, diverse supports and stuff. But it just, from that interview that they did with Guang Guang, shout out to the GOAT, but the interview they did with him, when they brought this topic up and they were talking about the fact that the tanks and supports were heavily outweighed by DPS, it just didn't seem like he was very confident that anytime soon we were going to be getting more of a balance to that. It was kind of, he started going into a whole spiel about, oh well, we gotta, we make our characters like a year in advance, which I get. Like, what game is making their content like the day of or the week of? Obviously, clearly that's not how that works. Clearly it takes a long time to be able to make these character models, give them their abilities, test them, balance them, voice lines, plan out multiple skins and all this kind of stuff. I can only imagine how long that takes. It would take me a year to just do one, and the fact that they can do so many is absolutely crazy. And even then, it wouldn't even, if in a year, I probably would just be learning how to actually make the model itself, not add all the intricacies and stuff to it. So, but like I said, though, I am really interested to know what you all think. That was just my personal little rant, simply because there was a time when I really did enjoy using Sue Storm, but now I just feel like it's, I don't know. Did she get a nerf at some point? Like, I don't even know. Like, is it just, did other people get buffed too much, or I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's kind of like the honeymoon phase is over and you start to kind of realize like, oh, this is trash, or maybe there was secret nerfs or something. I don't know. But you guys know. You guys are much smarter than myself. So let me know in the comments your thoughts and opinions and all that kind of stuff. But that's all I got for this video. I'm gonna wrap it up. I do appreciate y'all for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one. It's Father Dark, and I'm out.